Hi, and welcome to Judy Kerr's Acting is Everything. I'm always talking about studying acting because acting is a muscle and I believe sort of an athletic event. And as we know, athletes, you have to get it into your body. You have to really live and breathe acting. And if it's been a while, if you're a new actor, you have to be studying all the time. When you're working, have a job and you're on the set, then that usually takes up your time and you don't study. But the minute that you're out of work, you get back into acting class. And so I'm really, really happy today to introduce you to the teacher that I go to. This is Kimberly Jentzen. And every Wednesday afternoon from, it's now 2 to 6 instead of 3 to 6, I'm in acting class. And I love my fellow actors who are in the class, and we do scenes or all kinds of things.
Cold reading.
Cold reading, exercises. We always have relaxation or energizing thing that we do in the beginning.
Visualization exercises.
What is it? Visualization, yes. And so Kimberly is also, beside an acting coach, a director. She's just been signed on to direct another project this fall. And you are writing a book.
Mm-hmm. It's almost done.
I know, and we're acting with impact. She already has her ISBNs and that will be coming out.
But I can promise by the end of the year.
But we don't know when they'll be watching this, so they don't know what year.
Oh.
Because this will always be apropos.
Soon.
That's right. And so some of the what is your background and what is your philosophy on acting? Who are your teachers and where do you come from?
I studied for a long time. I was a young actor with a lot of, I got cast because of my look a lot of times. And I was played the ingenue. I always say an ingenue needs to be able to do 3 things: kiss, slap, and cry. And if you can't do those 3 things, then you're not going to get cast a lot. So I could always kiss and I could always slap, but I needed to learn how to cry effectively. And I could fake really well, and I think all actors need to fake, but I didn't want to fake. I wanted to be authentic. So I studied Strasberg for a long time, and that's what I would first use. And I realized that some of my, I used to cry about my dead cat a lot, unfortunately. And those emotions started to dry up. And I was working on different shows. I was on General Hospital for a period of time, did a lot of movies, horror movies mostly. And I searched madly for another process, another technique that could help me. And I did the Stella Adler technique, I did the Meisner technique, and I also ended up doing Chekhov. I studied with everyone from Roy London to Michael Shurtleff. My mentor was George Stanoff, who did the Chekhov technique, as well as Nina Foch, who's Stella Adler. And then I also worked with Delia Salvi, with Strasberg, as I said. I'm so extensively trained that by the time I started really feeling strong about my work and starring in different projects, actors started coming up to me asking me how I did what I did. And so that's how I became a coach, and I fell in love with coaching. And coaching, I have a very poetic life, and that I'm a poet. And I published a couple books of poetry early on in my acting career. And I always felt like you have to move to what you love. And I have a whole spiritual, I guess I love that life is about learning, and that you always stay open to whatever presents itself. I think that's why I think my coaching is so strong too, is because I'm open to my students, and I'm more interested in what's working for them than being right or having all the answers, and that what's working for them, and also are they committed? Are they committed to the love of the art, and how much commitment are they devoting to it? There's a difference between an ego-driven performance and an inspired performance. And to invest that kind of love and passion into your work can only give you a life that you become an artist.
That's right.
And and to become an artist is such a task. It's such a it's a work of love, but it's also a work of it's a lot of work. So
and it's how you have to think about how you can live your life as an artist each day, and will this help my artistry, what I'm doing?
And so there's so many different things out there. I mean, I think actors have a huge array of opportunities to study. There's the vocational studies where you go on camera and you look at the work, and it's very helpful, and then you go away and you say, okay, let me see what worked, what didn't work. And these kind of studies weren't available when I was a young actor. What was taught was hardcore Stanislavski that coached you how to create an internal life and generate something that is true, and getting in front of the camera and lighting up the screen with this authentic truth. And I still believe that sort of what is it? Just that kind of philosophy is essential. I mean,
Well,
you have to
and-
understand that as well.
And
So-
there's so much now that are just cold reading workshops and cold reading training instead of having, that's for auditioning.
your development.
Right.
I think cold reading is really important too. I always can tell how solid an actor is in their training and their skill and their development in applying their tools or the application of their instrument if they can cold read well. And that's many times how I assess an actor is by cold reading them. But I always have this little, every single actor will learn their cliches and their tricks and what will book them, and that's essential. But after that, it becomes pretty much the same performance over and over again if you don't continue to develop your skill. So there's that vocation, but there's also the traditional foundation training, which I think is essential. And foundation training is based on tools. And I think one of the most important, I'm going to sit more comfortably.
Yes.
I think one of the most important things that we as actors
This is how she is in class. Now you look like you're in class. Okay.
well, okay, where do we begin now?
Well,
being
you're talking about the tools, and one
Yeah.
of the things that we've loved to keep hearing about, first of all, Kimberly, I did want to mention that you were voted the most important acting coach in Los Angeles by the readers of Backstage, or their favorite, or what?
yeah.
Yeah, and that just happened.
It just happened.
And that was wonderful. How that must have felt great.
It's a great honor. I think I have very loyal actors. I have a lot of working actors. And what happens is as new actors come to me sometimes, or actors that have been in the field, and they don't know how to create a bridge between their instrument and their skill or their knowledge or whatever into a profession and make it useful. And I think this is one of the key things that I help people with is helping them become working again, or teach them how to quickly become working actors. That's one of my favorite things to do. I'm very interested in how actors are doing in the field. I want to know, what tools are you using? Everything has to be something that can be used over and over again when it comes to tools now, not just the tricks that are skills of what makes me look good, what makes me work, and what attracts people to me. But you have to be hired and then rehired and rehired and rehired. Your reputation is so important that every job you get should beget 4 more opportunities. And that's how actors become stars, is they do good work. And so you have to have a substantial amount of knowledge to develop a role. In television, it's very quick, but in feature film, you have an opportunity, a rehearsal process, to really own something and have layers and do the give and take of, any great actor wants to have another great actor on set with them. And so those tools are so essential, and they're very deep tools. They're not just surface tools that you...
Right. And so what you have done is, by studying with all these different teachers, and like every actor, we end up developing our own tools and what works for us. And so you have come up with your own tools that you teach, and now that you're writing about, so everyone will be able to read about them. So let's talk about, you have some things that I like, is that Root question.
The root question.
Yeah.
What I've discovered is many times, okay, for those actors that are already understand and have had some training, I'm going to talk directly to them. And we all know what the objective is. The objective is, what does your character want? And sometimes it can become very intellectual. In fact, you don't think in a scene, oh God, what would be my objective here? To enlighten and inform. And I'm not thinking in my head to enlighten and inform, to enlighten and inform. It's just too mental. And so what I realize is the objective, though it's fabulous and important, and it's probably the hub of the role, and it's very essential that we know what your character's objective is, the intention, the want, the need, what you're fighting for, in so many terms. What really is going on in an individual when they're desiring something? And usually there's a core or root question. Usually we can find 2 or 3. That is what the character is feeling. It's a question the character asks of themselves. In a situation like this, perhaps, I put myself on the spot
to come up with that.
No, I put myself on the spot to tell you something that what would Kimberly really be thinking? But I'll do it. I'll go there.
Okay, go ahead.
So what would I really be thinking in this position would be, it would be a question that would be confronting to myself. Like, am I truly an authority? Yes, no, maybe. And if it was, am I truly an authority in this moment? And I'm talking to Judy and I'm asking that of myself. You can imagine if I said no, it could easily bring me to tears, because here I am, and am I a fake? And that could be, a question that, that's such a revealing.
Oh, and she got a few little tears in her eyes, so she can still come up with those tears.
Well, root questions are fabulous for grief, the emotional content of grief. So if any of you have a challenge with going there, ask yourself, like, let's say you're playing a character like Susan Sarandon in The Client, when she's confronted with the idea that she might drink again. And the question is, a root question would be, will I drink again? Or am I an alcoholic? Yes, no, maybe. And the confronting of, am I an alcoholic?
Can I just have one drink after this?
Yes, can I have one drink? Can I have one drink? Now, I don't know if I'm explaining it clear enough, but it's very well explained in the book. But the question becomes a mantra. It becomes something that you keep repeating.
Like we do in life.
Like you do in life.
Will he like me? Will he like me?
Does he like me now?
Is he coming back? Will he ever call?
Yes.
Well, yes.
Will he ever call? Will he ever call? Will he ever call?
Has he forgotten me? Is he,
Yes. And so what happens is if you find the 2 or 3 root questions of your character, you can take it on set and it will drive the, what I love is when we see the character radiating a thought or having a transitions or coming to something true that allows the vulnerability to come through. And the only way for that vulnerability to come through is to allow that question to manifest in a yes, no, or maybe. And sometimes it's yes. Yes, I am an authority. Yay, I feel solid. Or sometimes it's maybe. And then it puts me into that uncertainty place. And if it's no, then it's, oh God. No? Not? He won't call me ever? I'll never be loved again? That's a wonderful root question. Or, will I ever forgive myself? And so you can see that I've been making actors cry, actually technically, in technique, for 20 years. But that one root question is so powerful, and so many students have booked using the root question. And I get a phone call the next day or a few days later, you sent me with a root question. I've even coached people over the phone with this, like, read me the sides. Okay, this is the root. They go, oh my God, yes it is. And then there we go, and then they book. And so it's a nice booking tool.
Right.
And it brings forward true emotion.
I just did a play in Wisconsin with my main teacher, mentor for 30 years, Joan Darling. And, but I didn't get out there until I had worked with Kimberly, and we must have worked about 4 hours. She went through every line of the script. It's a comedy, and helped me define, help me understand. Could I have done it on my own? After all, I am an acting coach, and I coach people, just as Kimberly does, but we need our coaches. We need our own coaches, our guide. And so...
Well, I'll tell you why. I believe that I have an advantage as a coach, and I know it. And so it humbles me to the idea that an actor comes to me to study with me because I know that they know that I have that advantage. I'm outside of your instrument. It's like
Right.
if I was being inside yourself, you have a completely different vantage point. You are looking out and you have no idea how it's coming across. And it takes somebody outside to know, and you're your worst critic. I mean, actors are so hard on themselves. And understandably, because this is a tough profession. And if you can be hard on yourself before other people do, then you can save yourself the grief of any rejection.
Right.
But the reality is you've got to be kind to yourself and loving to yourself and generous to yourself and have somebody outside in an honest way tell you what you need to work on or where the work needs to go.
And just to be able to work with another person, we're actors, we have to have an audience. We can't play our own violin and appreciate the sound of the music we make. We have to have someone watch and guide us and tell us what they see. Yes, you can get in front of the audience. That's what you do. I'm familiar, of course, of working on sitcoms, and the actors go in front of the audience and you get that feedback from the audience.
But yours was a specialized project, and I love comedy. Comedy is one of my fortes. So we had to work on all these like spit takes, trips, pratfalls.
And the spit takes were so great. I have a little video of the four of us outside doing spit takes. It was so great that I went there knowing how to do the spit take. And the pratfall and the trip that I was able to do because we had worked on. I'd never done that before. And it said in the script, I'm going to be doing it. Well, how am I going to learn that? And so it was so great to already have that under my belt and have the confidence of not having it be my first time.
Do you want to do a spit take now so people know what it is?
No.
A spit take, we would get the set wet a little bit. But a spit take is, just in case people don't know, it's when you take a little water and somebody makes a joke and it spits all over the
all
place.
over, yes.
And a pratfall is a trip or when you fall. And also timing is crucial in comedy. And I love comedy. I worked with the best comedy mentors, teachers, directors when I was an actor at the Music Center, and worked really hard on it. Love it. Love it.
Now, one of the things that you do every so often, I know, is this weekend intensive.
Yes.
And I was part of it once. And I remember I said to you, well, Kimberly, I don't know if I can stay awake all those hours because it's all Friday night really late and Saturday morning until real late and Sunday. Sometimes you finished up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Not
I
as
know
often.
you don't want. She always says she doesn't, but I hear from the actors that she does. And you said you won't fall asleep, and you were right.
No.
I didn't.
No.
So that has a very special construction.
Right.
And how did you come up with that, or why is that important, that type of intensive time to?
Well, that's how people move quickly. When they're, the name of my school is Living the Art Institute. And it got that name because an actor said, my God, it's like living the art for 3 days. I really believe there's being in the consciousness of the work, being in an environment where we're all thinking and we're focused on what this thing is about acting. Plus, it's filled with lectures and one-on-one coaching. So you're getting information every few hours, you're getting another
Right.
piece of information. Some of them take 20 minutes, some of these lessons, some of them take an hour.
And then you get to do it.
And you
right
immediately
then.
do it.
You
And
learn the tool and then
I can push people harder in a 3-day course. Their resistance drops. They get tired, and I'm not tired. I'm not tired.
No,
I
you
love
don't
it.
get
No,
tired.
I love it. And they love it, and it's exciting to watch people change. I think that's the most exciting thing, a part of my job, is when people have an, oh my God, or that you just had a breakthrough. It's really contagious for a teacher. It's just you can't, the love just. You just
Right.
can't replace that. I think that's what the addiction is to teaching.
Right.
It's
Now, are
watching
you,
people
I
grow.
know the answer to this, but you can answer, are you tough on actors?
Oh,
you
yeah,
look
of
like
course.
you wouldn't be tough at all.
No, that's the tough thing, is that I don't look like I'm tough, and so people misinterpret perhaps my, it's never about them, it's only about the work. I would never insult anybody on a personal level, and if they misinterpret or think that I'm being personal, then it's very tough on both of our parts. I have it's always a challenge because it is, in a strange way, acting is a personal experience for the actor, but an impersonal experience in taking direction and getting direction.
Right.
But the work itself is so hard that I might give one actor some notes that are really, really tough notes, and I know I've given tough notes. And I'll give another actor the same tough notes, and two people will respond completely different. And it blows my mind. And one person will call me later and go, oh, I was really broken up, and I'm so shocked. Another actor, I've given them the same notes, and I go, thank you so much, I had a breakthrough, and they moved into the next level. So you know, as a coach, this is the thing, and I always say that you have to learn how to not take things personally. And you sort of have to set your ego aside.
You mean actors?
Yes.
In this business, yeah.
Yes, in this business, you have to set your ego aside. The other thing
because
is
the goal is to grow as an artist, and that's why we look for guidance. Is what our next growth thing? Because if we're not growing, then we're dying.
There's only one way to grow, and I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it: growing pains.
Yeah.
It's always painful to grow. We don't want to change. We like to stay.
Well, we don't like the truth. We don't like.
Well, we want to stay stagnant and just keep doing it because it's easier. And so there's a little pain there. So there's a art to how much pressure can I put on this actor to bend them a little more. And sometimes if they give me a lot of resistance, you're going to give a lot more push on the other side. But if they don't give as much resistance to me, they're going to have a gentler time in the growing pain issue.
How does an actor in general, because we're talking to actors in all parts of the country and everything, learn to trust their acting coach? Because I think there is an element of trust that you must put in the coach. And so how do you know if the coach is good and they're trustworthy? You
first have to trust yourself. I've never had an actor who didn't trust themselves understand how to trust another and know where and when. And you know, it's
how do you trust yourself?
How do you learn to trust yourself? You have to do some spiritual work. When I was a young actor, I have a lot of trust in general in myself. And I did some pretty wacky stuff later. If I thought about it, go, you know what? Maybe that wasn't such a good idea, maybe that was. But nothing's ever damaged me or hurt me. And I also think that actors have to be very careful in that. If it seems like the direction that you're being given is going to damage you or hurt you in any way, you have to decline that direction. And you don't have to do that meanly. You can just say, you know what, I don't think I can do that now, or I don't know. If you get booked to be on set and you're working with a director and you signed a contract, you have to take their direction. That's why you were hired. The key to acting is being flexible and learning how to take direction at the same time, keeping your own integrity, your own sense of the way in which you want to take the character. And you can, both people can win. But the key is to be flexible. And that's what the key is to a good acting coach or a student studying with an acting teacher. Trust that flexibility. There's nothing that can hurt you, except if it's like, you know, something that's physically dangerous or nudity or anything like that.
Well, I'm glad you touched on nudity because I was watching a show last night, Californication.
I love it.
Yes, it's fabulous. And it's on Showtime, cable, and there was 3 or 4 women that David Duchovny was sleeping with that were topless and that looked like they were absolutely having sex. And I wonder, how do you advise actors to take a small role? Should you take off your clothes for a small role like that? It's a half-hour show.
You have to be very comfortable with your body. Do not ever take a role if you're not comfortable with the idea of doing that, because I don't want to name what stars, but you all have seen on, in films when an actor absolutely is terrified during a lovemaking scene. None
of those actors on that show were.
Well, they're comfortable with their body, then they made the right decision. It's a personal decision. I did a lot of love scenes when I was a young actor, but I never took off my clothes. I never I was so neurotically freaked out by my parents. My mother's from Connecticut, and I couldn't disappoint them. And so I even
So you didn't want to show any nipples.
I convinced a director of a feature I was in to not show. I got the role, and he said, "If you take off your shirt," and I said, "Can I?" And my agent knew that I could talk him out of it. So she gave me his phone number. I called him. I said, "You really don't want to see me without my shirt on. He goes, really? I go, no, I have very innocent eyes, and it wouldn't go over. So he goes, okay. I said, is there any way I can pick out a couple bras? I'll bring them on set. You pick your favorite one. And he did. He picked the bra that covered me the most. I ended up on the poster with the bra screaming.
Of course.
But I didn't have to do that. And I did they would scotch, it looks so off though when women are completely, when covered perfectly now. I mean, these were B movies that I was in. I was, unfortunately they weren't anything I could, you notice I'm avoiding telling you what they were. Some you can't even find anymore. It was in the late 70s, early 80s, but, and I just aged myself, I suppose. But the reality is I was young, and
so you made the choice that you did not.
Yeah, I didn't want to do
nudity.
nudity. It was a different time too. It was a different era in the 80s. Now it's much more acceptable. In fact, even in the late 80s, I remember it would distinguish you between a B movie actor and an A-list actor. Now it doesn't matter. Now it can even work to your advantage. It's just a very different thing.
Well, it's amazing how much nudity there is on television, in the cable shows. And so that is really a question that actors have to decide right away.
Yes.
Will I do young actors?
It also can work at your disadvantage if you don't feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah. Well, once you do it, then you have to be willing to do it for
again.
everybody.
Right.
So that's another decision to make too. We are at the end of the show.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
Yes.
I want to thank you so much for taking this time out from your writing to come on and do the show.
It's a pleasure and an honor always, Judy. I love working with you.
Oh, good. I love working with you too. So let's do, and they'll continue on running, and so I'd like to get something in maybe about a power tool. What is a power tool? I know you have a chapter or a whole section.
It's called. There's 16 power tools in the book. Well, a power tool. Some of these are from the, like the objective is a power tool. Or I have a tool called emotional content, and it's how to develop your emotional range. But every single tool that is a power tool is a tool that can carry a performance. That's why I call them power tools. Whereas there are tools that will help you develop different characters, but you really don't use them on the job when you're on set. But any power tool can carry a job on set and can book a role, and they have booked roles. At the end of every chapter, I have examples of different actors sharing how they booked a role through using this tool.
Wow.
So that's why they're so important.
And what is the fire thing? That's what I always, is that a question? Or
No,
the fire
that's a
thing
secret.
I love.
You'll have to get the book for that one. You'll love the other tool too. These are all in the depth chapter, and it's just how to get actors. Depth. Yes, there's 7 chapters.
Yes.
And this is and of course there's 2 different ways. You can use your imagination or you can use personalization. But you make a choice of which one works best for you. And sometimes imagination works because it allows you to be more empathetic to things that you've never experienced. And personalization gives you